So moving on to Alasdair from Friends of the Earth. So Alasdair, if you can tell us what you guys are all up to, over to you.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you all virtually. Nice to see a few familiar faces as well this morning. Much what I'm going to say echoes and builds on what's already been said this morning. But I want us to start off with just to take a second and to rewind, to really appreciate the progress we've made perhaps over the last 10 years. If you were to think back 10, 11 years ago in the wake of the failed Copenhagen talks, you'll note the apathy there was, the lack of energy there was in tackling the climate emergency. And we knew that that needed to be addressed then and needed urgency then, but we couldn't get it going. But over the last decade, we've made real progress in building energy. I think the Paris talks, although it didn't deliver everything that was needed in 2015, really was a point of change for the public and the public mood. There was no longer these discussions as there were before that point around, is climate change a thing we even need to worry about? It's been well won now, the arguments about the impact of climate change and the need to address it. I think now is about channeling that energy into effective action that addresses the climate emergency. And in the past, we might also have talked about sort of occasionally each certain years being key in tackling the climate crisis. But I think probably the reality is now every single year, every single month is crucial in tackling the crisis as well. And no more so than this year. This year we have COP26 being hosted in Glasgow by the British government in October and November of this year. It's been delayed by a year due to the COVID pandemic, and that's made the importance of these talks even greater than usual, really, to ensure that we're on track or to get ourselves back on track, and crucially to raise the ambition of action that is needed by governments around the world as well. So how do we leverage that, and how do we make that a success? Well, the first thing to say really is that there's real progress or real momentum with us on this. I think one of the things you may have seen a few weeks ago was Friends of the Earth's sister organisation in the Netherlands, Myriad Defence, had a huge win in courts there over Shell, where it challenged Shell on their action to tackle the climate crisis. And the court found that Shell had not been doing enough and ordered Shell to do much more. That's a totemic legal win, and one that has sent ripples around the world through the oil and gas industry and through governments as well. And that builds on other wins that we've had in recent years. Friends of the Earth here in the UK, about 15 months ago, we had a win in the Court of Appeal over the building of a third runway at Heathrow. And while subsequently the Supreme Court changed that, the Supreme Court still said that in the coming processes around the proposed building of that third runway, there must be consideration taken into things like the impact of climate change of building a third runway. And crucially, it's delayed progress of that and change, and the external context has since changed then for the aviation sector as well. We've got a huge amount to do though, and I want to just focus on a couple of key areas. Friends of the Earth across England, Wales and Northern Ireland has been really pushing, particularly for councils, to get action plans in place over the last 2 years. And it's been so exciting to see so many councils do just that. It's been great to hear this morning a little bit about what's been happening here in the southeast as well. And that needs to continue. But we need to help councils overcome some of the blockages that are preventing them from having more ambitious plans or the ability, crucially, to deliver those plans. For me, that means two things. It means pushing the government to ensure councils are getting the funding they need to be able to deliver these plans. This local action is absolutely crucial for us to tackle the climate crisis nationally, and then councils need proper funding to be able to do that. Secondly, they need to be given the freedom to make the policies and choices they need. They need the powers to do this as well. But also the government needs to stop progressing policies that hamper this as well. The proposed changes to the planning system are a real threat to councils' ability to tackle the climate crisis. It threatens green spaces, it threatens many other things as well, including crucially local democracy and local say. They need to radically change their proposed changes to the planning laws as well. And secondly, they also need to stop attacks on people's freedom to protest. So that means stopping things like the elements within the policing bill, which are hugely damaging to people's right to protest in this country. But alongside that, we know that in the year of the COP, with the British government hosting it, that the eyes of the world are on how Britain acts and how Britain behaves in this as well. We've seen already that the government has faced acute embarrassment by their support for the proposed new coal mine in Cumbria. And there's many other areas where the international community is focusing on what Britain is doing and their actions as well, and challenging them to do this. And we need to utilise that and this opportunity to challenge the government on their national level policies and how they are acting, to make sure that their decisions and their policies are in line with net zero, and that they're taking far more ambitious action than they have yet to date as well. Their words are simply not met by their actions so far as well. In the months to come, we've got huge challenges, both in tackling the climate crisis, but also coming out of the COVID pandemic. But this gives us opportunities as well, I would hope. We know that we have huge challenges with employment, and a recent report by Friends of the Earth found that potentially we could be creating 250,000 green apprenticeships each year for young people to take up if the government put in the right investment. These are good local opportunities for young people if that investment comes. As we approach the COP, we need to seize the energy and the focus on the government to challenge them, to support councils, to support communities, and to give opportunities to young people and many more to tackle this climate crisis in a huge range of different manners, whether that be shifting policies, shifting funding to areas where it's needed most for this, or investing in those roles that will last people, particularly young people, going into employment, jobs that they can have for life as well. It's been a pleasure joining this morning, and hope to hear more as we progress as well. Thank you.